Come on in, honey. The lantern's lit, the veil's a little thin, and the wind's been dying to carry a few secrets your way. Welcome to Raven's Ramblings, where the shadows walk beside us and the past never stays buried, and a good spell can speak louder than a sermon. I'm Raven Nightingale, part healer, part hellraiser, keeper of the old ways and ghost stories alike. So pull up a chair and listen close. You never know what might be whispering in the dark. Welcome back, my witchy friends, to Raven's Ramblings, the podcast where we're going to talk about, of course, witchcraft and spirituality and folklore, healing, all those little weird corners of life. And occasionally, we're going to be stopping and asking ourselves why our FYP on TikTok has found someone to try to sell us a guaranteed demon removal package for $399. Right? They're out there. I know, it's crazy. Well, I am Raven, your host, and today we're going to talk about witchy red flags. And not the fun kind. Not the they own too many damn crystals kind, because honestly, same, way too many. I know. I know how to admit when I have a problem. I'm talking about the kind of warning sign that can leave people feeling very manipulated and scared and financially drained and emotionally drained and tangled up, or even completely disconnected from their own intuition. Because somewhere along the line, spirituality has become this strange combination of wisdom and aesthetics and, well, absolute spiritual bullshit. Uh-huh. Yep, I said it. But listen, now this episode is not about attacking witchcraft. It is not about mocking people for believing in magic or energy or spirituality because I am that witch. I believe in all of those things. I believe in this path very, very deeply. However, unfortunately, there are people out there who use spirituality like a smoke machine in a haunted house. Lots of drama, lots of effects, but very, very little substance. And I'm from the South, so you see a lot of this in mega churches. Same kind of concept, right? So, anyway, grab your tea and light your candle. I've got some going over here behind me. And let's lovingly side eye some nonsense together. Okay. So let's start with one of the biggest red flags in modern witchcraft. It is the people who are constantly trying to convince you that you are cursed. hmm Now, don't get me wrong, I absolutely believe in harmful energy existing. I believe people can intentionally or unintentionally affect one another energetically, obviously, because why else would I be casting spells, right? And I also believe that protection work has a huge, huge value. I do it all the time, every day. But some people online will act like every little headache or bad mood or inconvenience or breakup or weird dream or maybe even every time your left butt cheek twitches means that you are under some kind of psychic attack from some ancient shadow entity named Kyle. You know, you know. Sometimes your anxiety is just your anxiety. And most of the time, Mercury retrograde did not ruin your life. hmm Sometimes you're just dehydrated and you need some electrolytes. Yeah. Because fear based spirituality keeps people dependent. Remember that. If they seem to be dependent on you, then that is probably some type of fear-based spirituality. If they are depending on you, to give them money to solve the problem that they say you have? No. No, 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 no. No, absolutely not. Mm-mm. Mama Raven says no. Mm-mm. We're not doing that. So if someone's entire content is everyone is attacking you, or you are cursed, or demons are everywhere. That's my personal favorite. Demons are everywhere. Or even you need this particular spell that I am selling immediately. Yeah. All of those things should raise an eyebrow because spirituality should empower you, not keep you terrified 24/7 like a Victorian child hearing a tuberculosis cough down the hallway, right? It's not supposed to be scary. It's really not. This ain't look, this is gonna sound awful for some of my listeners who probably do practice other faiths, but it is not all fire and brimstone. Okay? I'm just saying. But these creators who are pushing all of this information about you have to buy this spell from them or something is attacking you, whatever, they are predators. They prey on vulnerable people. They prey on those people who are grieving or scared or lost. And that is not guidance. That is emotional fishing with moon phase graphics. All right. And we're not having it. Red flag. Nope. Not doing it. Now, another giant red flag are sorry, I just can't with some of these people. Because I wrote all this script and stuff out, and then when I go back and I'm reading through it, because if I don't read through it, then I squirrel all over the place. But then I'm remembering what triggered me to write that particular part of the script. So it just, yeah. Anyway, okay. Another giant red flag would be people who claim they are uniquely spiritually superior. Yeah, no. You know that vibe. My deity chose me specifically. These are quotes that I have heard on TikTok and other little podcasts. My deity chose me specifically. That was one. I alone hold the ancient hidden truth. Do you, ma'am? Do you? My personal favorite was I am the last surviving moon priestess of this forgotten crystal kingdom. Ma'am? No, please. Your deity also probably wants you to answer your emails and drink some water. Okay? Now listen. Having a meaningful spiritual experience is very real. Feeling deeply connected to your practice or to a deity that you practice with is very real. Okay. I have several deities on my altar that I practice with. Do I think that I am superior because I talk to them? No. Mm-mm. Mm-mm. Because spirituality in those types of instances should kind of humble you a little bit, not turn you into the main character of a fantasy novel with a Patreon. Don't be ridiculous, you know? Because one thing that I have learned after all these years of practicing is that wise practitioners usually don't spend all their time trying to convince everyone how powerful they are. They're just grounded. They're very calm and thoughtful and very open to learning. And that's something that I have always talked about. My practice is my practice, but I am always willing and open to learn something new. All right? Because what works for me may not work for you. And what works for you may not work for me. But there's no reason we can't talk about it and figure it out. You know what I mean? Because a lot of times those loud people are the ones in this is gonna sound tacky. I know it is. These are the ones that are in the velvet cloak or one velvet cloak away from accidentally starting a cult. Yeah. Which of course brings me to another red flag. Anyone who discourages questions Absolutely not. If someone acts like questioning them is low vibration or disrespectful, honey, run. Get the hell away from that. You do not need that bullshit. Mm-mm. I grew up in the Baptist church. I refuse to not question things ever again. I question every damn thing. I do. I do. Well, number one, because I'm just naturally curious. Number two, I don't trust anything. So I always question. I'm not saying it's healthy, but healthy spirituality, though, does allow curiosity. It allows those questions. And healthy teachers don't panic when people think critically. You know what I mean? If you are questioning something, then you are critically thinking about that subject and making it make sense to you, right? Because if your entire spiritual authority collapses the moment someone asks why, that's not wisdom. That's bullshit. Mhm. That is a glittered covered house of cards that's going to fall down around you. Yeah, it's not worth it. Now let's talk about something we are probably all a little bit guilty of. I know I am. I know. And I know sometimes I'm probably a walking red flag with all this shit, but I like it. It makes me smile. The aesthetic trap. Because we witches, we love a good aesthetic. We talk about it all the time about the candles and the books and the crystals and the antique keys and the jars of everything. And yes, I get it. I am that target audience. I have the things because I am also a little bit of a magpie dragon and I need a little hoard that makes me happy. All right. However, a beautiful aesthetic, which this is not. This is unorganized, chaotic gremlin. But a beautiful aesthetic does not automatically equal wisdom. It doesn't. Anybody can go out and buy all the tools ever and set up this beautiful thing and put a candle and a ring light and it just be fabulous and the most beautiful thing you've ever seen in your life. And social media has made this all worse by, now spirituality is often packaged like luxury branding. So you've got the dark lighting and the music and the perfect altars and makeup and robes and suddenly the people assume that well their altar is gorgeous so they must know what they're talking about. Probably not. I'm not saying everybody who has a beautiful altar doesn't know what they're talking about. Please don't misunderstand me. There are some stunning altars out there by actual witches who do know what they're talking about. But for the most part, a lot of things are done just for the camera, right? And that's why I don't trust it. I'm not saying it's bad, it's what ifs. If your altar is beautiful, honey, I fucking envy you because this mess over here, it's like I took my brain out and laid it over there and it just wiggled around every which way. Yeah. Because sometimes the person with the messy altar and the tea stained notebook has the 20 years of actual experience, while Crystal Moonfire over here learned everything last Thursday between sponsored skincare ads. Yeah. And some of the most spiritually grounded people that I've personally ever met look very ordinary. They really do. There's no dramatic performance, no chosen one energy, no trying to appear mystical every second of the day. Just wisdom and kindness and experience and humility. And to me personally, that matters more than the aesthetic perfection ever will. But that's also why I film the way I film as just me. I don't Look, I pulled my hair out of a ponytail holder. Kinda it's sorta laying down, I don't know. But I've always wanted to appear very real. I want to be real to my watchers and my listeners. Okay, because this is what it looks like. That whole fancy shit. I mean, if they do that, great. I no, that's not normal for everyone. Okay, it's really not. Man, this episode feels very random. So we're gonna run through it. So let's step into the swamp for a second. Yeah, yeah. Because some people have turned spirituality into the magical version of a late night infomercial, right? If you don't book this reading with me immediately, your whole life is going to collapse. No, no. For $500, I can reunite you with your twin flame. Absolutely not. No. That is spiritual manipulation wearing pretty crystal rings. We're not doing it. And now I agree, people deserve to be paid for their work. Readers and healers and creators and teachers and artists, all of that takes time and energy. 100% pay them for their work. There's nothing wrong with charging fairly. However, there is something very wrong with exploiting people in fear and grief and heartbreak and desperation, especially when it comes to things like love spells and obsession readings. No, no, stop it. Stop preying on people. And I need some people online to stop feeding delusions like stray cats behind a damn Waffle House, right? Because if someone is promising you total control over another person, or they are encouraging an obsession with another person, or they are claiming that they can force someone to love you. Please step back. Step back, breathe for a minute, go stand in some grass, look at the moon. Just take a breath, honey. Take a breath. Because sometimes relationships end because people are just incompatible. And yes, closure can be very, very painful. And sometimes healing is the actual magic. Yeah. And not every situation needs a domination candle and 27 tarot clarifiers. They just don't. Sometimes, sometimes a stick is just a stick. You know? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Now, this next one may personally attack some of us, including myself. Not every random thing is a cosmic message. Sometimes a bird is just a bird. Sometimes your candle pops because candles tend to do that on occasion. And sometimes your playlist shuffled to a sad song because, well, Spotify's kind of a bitch and enjoys emotional violence. And I say this lovingly because I think spiritually, no, I think that spirituality can become unhealthy when people lose the ability to stay grounded in their own reality. Okay? Like we're all very spiritual, 100%, but there's got to be a little bit of logic in there also. You know what I'm saying? Signs usually resonate because they carry meaning to you. And not every single thing in the universe is screaming hidden prophecies 24 hours a day. Otherwise, we would end up with a huge spiritual court board and it would drive us all insane like conspiracy detectives with that red string on the wall thing, right? Nobody wants that. And I think constantly searching for signs can sometimes disconnect us from just simply living our lives, right? We don't want to do that. What's the point if we're not living our life? Because magic isn't always loud. Sometimes it is very subtle and quiet and personal. Not every moment has to become a cryptic raven omen from the universe itself. But if an actual raven lands outside your window dramatically during this episode, okay, fine, pay attention to that. That's probably a sign. If that's not common for you, you might want to focus on that. You know what I'm saying? But like, there are cardinals out in my backyard every single day. They're just cardinals in my backyard. Sometimes I see them in weird places, and I'm like, "Oh, well, that's so and so saying hello." But the ones in my backyard, those are always there. You know what I'm saying? Now, I do think one of the saddest things about manipulative spirituality is how often it teaches people not to trust themselves. That, to me, is the real danger because people do become afraid to think critically, they become afraid to question, they become afraid to leave unhealthy spaces or to admit when something feels wrong. And your intuition for those things, that matters. So if someone is making you feel constantly afraid or emotionally dependent or ashamed or isolated or manipulated or pressured, that is not spiritual enlightenment. That is a red flag wearing incense. Because healthy spirituality should leave room for that curiosity and that growth and humor and boundaries and humanity. And truly, in my world anyway, I think humor is very important. If your spirituality can't survive a little bit of laughter, then it's going to become very rigid and very fragile and very performative. Because sometimes the most magical thing you can do is laugh. Just laugh. Cleanse your house, drink your water, and laugh. And stop giving MoonShadow RavenFire your credit card information. Stop it. Stop it. You deserve better than that. You do. Don't let these people take advantage of you. Mama Raven says stop it. Or Auntie Raven. However you want to look at it. Whatever. Anyway, this one's gone on kind of long, guys. Sorry about that. I got a little rambly. Hmm, look at there. At the end of the day, witchcraft itself is deeply, deeply personal to each individual practitioner. Your practice does not have to look like anybody else's. Your spirituality does not need to perform for social media. And you do not need to be the chosen heir to the ancient moon kingdom to be valid. You are allowed to learn things slowly and to question all of those things. You're allowed to change your mind and your path and to walk away from unhealthy spaces. Trust your instincts. Trust your instincts. Trust yourself. Because sometimes the biggest act of magic is simply staying grounded in a world that profits from chaos and confusion. So let this episode be your reminder that you can love witchcraft very, very deeply. I do. But you can do that while still calling out nonsense when you see it. Yeah. The candles can stay. Some of the aesthetics can stay. I should probably, trim mine down a little bit. Thank you for spending this time with me tonight in our little weird corner of the internet. Please check out the website, ravensramblings.com. I got all kinds of craziness on there. I even have a moon phase calendar thing on there now. Look at me go. I know, right? Check it out on Facebook, Spotify, YouTube, little things on TikTok and Instagram, and all the things, guys. All the things. Thank y'all for spending the time with me, though. I do appreciate it. And until next time, stay grounded, stay curious, and maybe side eye anyone trying to sell you an emergency curse insurance. Hmm. Bye.